Last year, I participated into the UXR conference, which is a really big conference for people from all over the world who are working in UX research. And last year they went online, so that was lucky for me, so I was able to attend. And each year it seems like they're sending a survey to all of the participants of the conference to fill out and answer questions about their salaries. So this year they sent in a newsletter all of the information about that. Of course, this is a survey of people who participated in the conference, so that doesn't necessarily reflect the entire UX research community, but it does give us an idea of what to expect. So let's dive into it. What is interesting about this report is that they divide it not exactly by country, but they do make a few distinctions between the US, Canada, the UK, and the European Union to try to give us a better idea, more accurate reflection. So I thought this was really interesting. So it came out that people who have the UXR role in the US seems to have double, on average, the double amount of money or pay compared to their counterparts who are in Canada or EU or the UK as well. So that was really surprising to me, because even though I come from Montreal and the salary difference from someone who works in Montreal or elsewhere in Canada is definitely different than for someone who lives in LA or San Francisco, but I did not expect that it would be double the difference, double the amount, that they would make double the salary on average. So that might be skewed by the fact that maybe a lot of people who participated in a conference work in San Francisco or LA or New York, which are cities that are notably very expensive to live in, but also have the salaries to match that. To segue a little bit into that, not surprisingly, the highest paid city for UXR is San Francisco. So I was not really surprised to learn that at all. This really reflects what generally I've noticed in terms of salaries, in terms of trends. And that is in tech, regardless of the title. Something that I thought was kind of very juicy and I was very curious to learn more information about is the gap between men and women. So very surprisingly, it looked like men and women, there was no gender gap, which is very encouraging, but they did highlight that there were a lot less men who answered the survey versus women, so that could have definitely skewed the results. Another thing that they highlighted in their survey is that Americans are more likely to have remote work into UXR, and that's another trend that I've noticed through attending a lot of UX research conference, is that a lot of the consultants or the more established people that are invited to speak often don't necessarily work full-time for a company, but there's a lot of consulting. And the last big takeaway was that there were less people who had 1 year fewer of experience, 1 year or fewer of experience this year compared to last year. In terms of responding to the survey, I think that last year they had 13% of people who described themselves as junior designers, junior researchers, and this year they had only around 10%. So maybe that reflects the trends that there has been a little bit less of new positions for people starting in UXR, but maybe not necessarily. So now let's get to, I'm sure, what you all want to know, the numbers. In terms of average, the men's average for a UXR position in the US was about $129,000, which is really good. And for a woman, it was around $125,000. So we notice that there's a slight difference, but it's not too big. Now I'm going to dive into a little bit more what you can expect maybe for a more junior position. Sometimes it's nice to know what to expect for a more junior position versus someone who has 10 years of experience. So maybe what you can expect more towards the end or later in your career. So people that said that they had less than 1 year of experience reported making around $78,000, which arguably I think is really good and allows people to live okay in two big cities like LA, San Francisco, and New York. It's really comfortable, but still I think it's really good for entry-level position. People that had between 1 and 3 years of experience reported making around on average $105,000 a year, which is also, you know, it seems really good and a significant increase from people who have, like, let's say a junior position. And people who had between 3 and 6 years of experience reported on average making around $129,000 a year. And finally, for people who are the top most experienced and who have between 6, 10 years or plus of experience, reported that they were making around $151,000 a year. So for me, that was really interesting to have access to these numbers and to being able to compare my salaries, which seems to be falling into, you know, those averages. But I think this information is also very useful if you have to negotiate your salary. Then you know on average, you know, maybe what you should ask for, or if you are someone who is underpaid, then you definitely can use these numbers to try to ask for a raise. So let me know in the comments below if there's anything that you found, you know, really surprising, if these numbers for you, you know, are kind of what you were expecting. I'm really curious to know what other people are thinking. And I will leave in the description below the link for this survey, so if you want to check out other countries and have all the nitty-gritty details, you can have access to it. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you want more content about UX research and design, and I will see you in another video. Bye.